Welcome to the Social Media Church podcast. I'm Nils Smith, joined by my good friend Aaron Magnuson. Aaron, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Nils. It's good to be back. We're happy to be back with our people. People that in our headspace we've never left. You've always been in our heads, and we always think about you. And we've just been in a 2022 was a really busy season, Nils, for both of our families. And we're going to give it a go here in 2023. We're excited to be back.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And you've started a new job,
True.
and you're living in a new state.
Yes.
And so I give you extra grace. I don't have as much excuse other than just I'm 40 now, so I'm older and have less energy for the labors of love that I invest into. But I do want to communicate. This is a deep love, and it's something that we are deeply invested in. It's something that we are prioritizing too in 2023, and a regret we have for going a bit quiet in 2022. So we want to finish the year strong and talk a little bit of recap on 2022 and some things we saw in our season of consulting and work and living. As you're now working in tech. So what were some things we saw trend wise in 2022 that are I think going to trickle into 23 and some of those predictions with 2023. So we're intentionally not having Kenny Jang this year. But I have no doubt he's going to engage online and let us know where we're wrong, and we'll let him know where we're right.
That's right. Kenny, we're going to have to do a response podcast.
It's a tradition of Kenny on this episode, but this year we're just going to leave Kenny out because we can.
He's loud enough on social media. We can.
He'll be a part of the conversation, whether he's on the episode or not. So, Aaron, as you look at 22. What are some of the trends? What are some of the things that you noticed or happened that you feel like highlight 2022 for you on social media?
Yeah. Community is still important. Community is still what churches continue to try and solve. Where does our digital community, what is our digital footprint? All of those things. That conversation is still important. Social media still is a part of everybody's strategy. You can't get off of social media, nor should you. There's definitely a lot of fruit to grow there, and as well as to be harvested. As far as where that is happening, Instagram is obviously still on top. And I would say there's obviously a lot of upside to TikTok, and I think we see that with ministries. I don't know that churches have necessarily figured out the best ways to execute on TikTok, but as far as like people and like individual, I think I'm seeing more individual pastors and not pastors of large churches, like their church is online only. And also not like a DJ Soto. So I guess I'm answering the question in a way of like, we've seen new versions of online church come up. And what is church and what is discipleship and how does that work? And these are all things that I think the church has always tried to answer in the new age. And I would say that those answers don't involve something that doesn't involve social media. Obviously, YouTube, I don't know whether that counts as social media or not. YouTube is still doing what it's doing.
Yes.
But maybe a lesser known one that has popped more on my radar, probably as I've been exposed to new people and new spaces doing different things, but still seeing its relevance for this audience and the church, is LinkedIn. And I know that's not new for you, Nils, and people like Nils and Kenny. We'll throw Kenny some love here. LinkedIn is a place that has been talked about historically. I think similar to TikTok, similar but different. That one's a little bit harder to integrate for the church in terms of what does our spot look like on there. But I know that, we won't go into predictions quite yet, but I know that the last one that got a lot of attention this year, and I think it's going to be easy to move into predictions and what we see for the future, but Twitter would be the last spot that I noticed a lot of things happening. Obviously, I don't know how you couldn't. Just with Mr. Musk purchasing and what is it going to become, and can he do to Twitter what he's done to every other organization that he's grabbed his hands on? And what does that mean? And how do we strategize around that? And how do we look at that? And so good news. You found the right podcast to help navigate those waters and help wade through. I realize that I leave that LinkedIn one a little bit half baked, but I think 2023 will have better answers for how to leverage LinkedIn. But Nils, what did you notice in your 2022?
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn is where I actually spent a lot of time as I was invited to be like a LinkedIn creator, especially around crypto. So
That's
I
right.
spent a lot of time on that platform. I still don't see a whole lot of ministry opportunity on LinkedIn. And so it's not a platform that I encourage a lot of churches to be on. I do think there's an opportunity, though, to build community and groups and connect
What
professionally.
about the staff though? What about like from a professional standpoint? And maybe spend a little bit of time here, but I know that especially for those people who are listening that
Yeah,
oversee the online space of your church, that can be a
yeah.
lonely place sometimes. And I don't necessarily see Facebook groups being the answer to how that's solved. But as far as like what are people doing, like the business side of church, employee to employee, what about that
Yeah.
lens through LinkedIn?
I just don't see it happening on LinkedIn yet. And that's where I do think it can happen, like with LinkedIn groups and some other things, as people are building connections on LinkedIn. Because LinkedIn, holistically, outside of church leaders, there's a lot of networking and people that are connecting with peers in their space. I just don't see it happening a whole lot among pastors, ministry leaders yet. So that's the thing I think could happen, but I wouldn't even put it in a top five for churches. I think the new platform that got a lot of attention was Be Real. As a lot of people jumped on to Be
Did you
Real.
hop on there, Nils?
I hopped on there. I kind of pretty quickly was like, I don't really like it. I don't really see an opportunity here for ministry and for the organizations that I support. And so I'll pay attention to it. I'll understand how it works. And if I see it begin to catch traction, I'll give it more attention. And I think it already faded before I even needed to give it much attention. But hey, when I see a trend happening, I'm going to jump on it and at least give it a few hours to tinker and play with. So, but that
Yep.
was, and it's not gone. But I think it, 23, it will disappear for the most part. And I could be wrong. It could still, have a big surge. I would say it's kind of, what really took effect in 2022 was short form vertical video. And that's where you look at TikTok, Reels, YouTube Shorts, as that. And I just think about all the conversations I had with the ministry clients that I serve. That it was that it's how do we create now. Most of them are focused on Reels, which I think was a good place to focus. The repurposing to TikTok, which I was glad to see them embracing. And now we're seeing this, kind of surge onto YouTube Shorts, and you're able to create one piece of content that can be used for three different platforms, really four with Facebook as well. I would say what continued to happen in 2022 is Facebook continued to die. And I think the excuses, Facebook's not dying, it's dying. And it has some unique purposes with groups,
Yeah.
but I don't see a whole lot of engagement there as we did a couple of years ago. It has, I think Marketplace is actually maybe the most significant feature that people are using on Facebook. But for churches, unless you're a church that's 60 plus almost exclusively, you probably don't need to be spending a ton of time on Facebook. And so Facebook, which was king a couple of years ago, and I kept telling churches, don't abandon it yet, don't abandon it yet. Now it's like, I still wouldn't abandon it, but I definitely wouldn't give it much attention. And Instagram, I believe, kind of hit that peak in 22 to where it's like, look, you're not going to grow a whole lot more organically on Instagram, from what I can see. They've really done a good job, I think, to pivot to Reels to catch up to TikTok. But it's not like when Instagram copied Snapchat and stole stories and then just brought it to the masses. TikTok brought it to the masses before Reels could catch traction. So
Yes.
I think there's a lot of questions, as we look to 23, what happens. But I would say short form vertical video. And then my highlight of 22 was Elon Musk buying Twitter. I love Twitter. I like Jack Dorsey, who was the
We
previous
both do.
CEO. But look, I would typically tell ministries like Twitter's not worth. Twitter has been in decline for the past 4 or 5 years, and
Yeah.
it's a niche news platform with a lot less engagement than the other platforms.
Yep.
And so it had a purpose but it shouldn't be a priority. Where now Twitter, since Musk has taken over, all of a sudden has more engagement than it's ever had, more
Yep.
attention than it's ever had. And he has a very clear plan to take it to 1 billion active users. And you know what? He might do it, he might not. But at the end
Yeah.
of the day, what we're often looking for is attention. And at the end of the day,
That's
Elon's
right.
getting a lot of attention to the platform. And I think what you always kind of have to balance when it comes to organic social media is where can I get attention, um, where there's basically less content than there is
Yes.
content consumption. And that's because what happens is like on Instagram, and that's the tough part now, is lots of people on Instagram, lots of creators on Instagram. And so
Nils,
you're
there
finding,
used to be a time when I could get to the end of my feed. Oh, I
yeah,
already saw this post. I
yes,
saw this one. You
yeah,
remember that? Like the
oh,
sense of completion, the dopamine hit, right? And this is to your point.
yeah,
There was more attention than
yes,
content being created. And if you're
yes,
listening to this, you remember the days where you could get to, I think you actually still can. It gives you like a little notification or something you've caught up. I
I've
don't know
never
if you,
got
yeah,
it,
you
but
probably follow so many people. I
yes,
think you actually can, but
interesting,
I think I've done it accidentally maybe once or twice.
yeah,
But yeah, to your point, there was not the flood of content, and now when there's the flood of content, there's ads, there's all these
yeah,
things, and it's not inherently ads, but it's essentially what you're saying. Every single time Instagram has to make a decision: do I make money and show them an ad, or do I show them a piece of content that is not making me, the entity Meta,
yes.
money?
So the platform, Aaron, and you highlighted it. So repeating what you said, the platform that most significantly, I'd say, impacted churches in 23, and I think churches are really doing a good job on it, and that's YouTube. I think when I see the creativity in thumbnails, I think the production quality of video, and I think churches are really a church sermon is really optimal for YouTube and what they're looking for of highly engaging long form content,
Yeah.
and video content. And so I
And also
think,
short form, like
and
YouTube,
now short
also
form,
short form with the
yeah,
shorts, right? Like
yes.
every
So
platform, right? And I don't think Twitter's any different. Like, and by the
I think
way,
Twitter is going to become that way as they've talked about bringing Vine back. But I think YouTube is where churches that leaned into YouTube in 21 and 22 are seeing the fruits of that now. And I don't think it's too late to get into YouTube. So if you're not don't feel like you have good traction, but the reality is people are
yeah.
watching YouTube on their phone, they're watching it on their television. It's the place to live stream. It is the place for video.
Nils,
And
can we just talk about that for a second on this
yeah,
mentality of it's too late? Like, where does this mentality come from? Of I missed the wave. It's over. I missed it. That has never been true. It's not too late to get an email account. It's not too late to get a website. Still not too late to get on YouTube. Like, do people understand how big the internet is? The internet is so big. It is
yes,
so big. It's not too late.
but,
It's too late to build a
but
church building and have a congregation come on. It's not too late. It's not too late. It's not too late.
it's not too late, but it does become too late. And I think
Well, elaborate
I
on that. Like, where
I
does
saw
it?
it's too late to get on Facebook. If you're
Okay,
not on Facebook,
sure.
it's too late. It was too late a few years ago to get on MySpace, and I think essentially, and I would even say it's not too late, but it's too late to really get on Instagram and grow on Instagram. Uh,
That is true. What if you're coming with a community here, like we're thinking about the holistic strategy here, right? Like you have attention from a congregation. Let's say that, because that's I'm going to assume we're not talking to. I'm an evangelist, and God called me to evangelize, and I'm going to go an influencer following on, right? So there, what we are noticing though is there is still a communal piece to, like, you did a great example, and I don't even think this was like probably 2020 honestly, but
yeah,
Hillsong New York
yes,
has the Instagram for their kids ministry,
yep,
which was a vital community component for
yes,
you and your wife to get information on what was happening in kids church this weekend. And so if you do already have attention, there is like a natural like community information passing piece where
yeah,
it would not be too late to say, hey, okay, you can get all your updates on Instagram. Make sure you follow us here.
yeah.
But as far as organic growth, like if the evangelism and the mission piece, yeah, you missed the boat on that, but not on YouTube. So thank you for
Yeah,
elaborating on
and
that. That's true.
I think that's where most people are wanting to use social media as a front door to their church. And I think that's a wise strategy. I think there's aspects of fellowship and discipleship that can happen on social media. But for the most part, I think it's the best front door for just about anything. And I think that's where TikTok has become the best front door in this past year when it comes to just virality, and YouTube, because YouTube being the second largest search engine, and people that were kind of optimizing their titles and thumbnails and putting up good content saw good traction on YouTube. So I think 22 was a good year of growth and maturity on social media. And just some.
Can I say one more thing on 22? Because you were talking about TikTok. I think I saw this today. Actually, from our team, this was an internal conversation that we're having with our team here at Amplify, and they had pulled up an article that TikTok is looking to go to wide. So like the reverse, right? Everyone's trying to catch up to TikTok with short form, vertical. They're looking to go to like a horizontal YouTube vibe. Yes. And what that correlated in my head is, we've had him on the podcast. I'll shout out one of my good buddies, Sam, right? Working with him at Shoreline City Church. He was my introduction to TikTok being a learning platform. So we've all talked about YouTube University, right? Well, TikTok is the short form university. Maybe it's the associate's degree version of YouTube, right? But you're learning something in 15 seconds or 10 seconds. Yeah. And so I just think it's interesting that education is what's driving the two biggest platforms, TikTok and YouTube: discovery, learning, enrichment, adding value to your life, not mindlessly losing away. And I do think that's what separates those two platforms from Instagram. I'm watching cat videos. And how old do I sound? Oh my gosh. I'm watching cat video. My wife and I are sending cat videos to each other in the Instagram DM. But education is happening on YouTube. Education is happening on TikTok. And I think that is something we can't overlook. That's a trend I noticed in 2022, where there's this discovery and enrichment that's happening on these two platforms that cannot be passed by or overlooked.
Yeah, well, and I want to highlight an old episode now, because what you're talking about is Nick Vujicic. One of our clients is the most engaged faith channel on TikTok, as far as I'm aware. And Micah, who's been on the podcast, is really on his team, just an incredible creative. He has his own TikTok that I saw is almost at half a million, followers on his account, but just doing an incredible job in leaning into that platform and reaching the next generation. And so I think they've really set a bar for other ministries, and Nick has done that for many years. I want to plug, Aaron, in the middle of this. We have begun to do this more, and we want everyone to know that this podcast is run and managed and sponsored by Amplify Social Media, our social media marketing agency, where we help ministries run social media. So if you have a hard time, I know I need to do YouTube, but I don't have time. That's why Amplify exists. Right. There are some churches where we
your podcast,
all of their social media, their podcasts, their YouTube channel, all of those things, or we just help them, create some graphics or edit some videos, and respond to comments and messages. So we're here to help your church. If your church needs help getting your hands in the dirt, hands on keyboard, running your social media, that's why Amplify Social Media exists. So as I got into consulting ministries, I often ran into that's great, but I can't do that. Right. And so that's where it's kind of like, okay, we got to build a structure to help these ministries actually do what we're talking about doing.
That's right. So it's about time we give credit, because Nils, too often somebody's reaching out to me thinking that I'm the one or you're the one that's creating the graphics for Social Media Church on Instagram. We're not the ones sending out the emails. Hey, newsflash, we're not even the ones writing the emails. We are literally talking into a mic, passing that off, and everything else that you see by the time it hit your hands, it's not from our lips to your ears. It is passed through the hands of our team at Amplify. So if you're wondering, well, I wonder what churches do they work with? You can just start by looking at everything the Social Media Church does, and you can look at that church first, and that's our team. Huge shout out to them. Incredible team.
AmplifySocial.media is our website. So AmplifySocial.media, and check out our website and fill out the contact form, and we'll set up a call and share more about how we can help. So yeah, check that out. Let's talk about 2023. Aaron, maybe we take turns making some predictions. What's a prediction that you have for 2023 in social media?
I'm going to take the easy one that we're both most excited about. Twitter is going to make the comeback that Nils Smith has been arguing with Kenny Jang about for years.
Yes.
For years, we all thought Twitter was dead. It is not. It's coming back. It's going to come back in some way, shape, or form, and your church is going to be able to leverage it in a way that maybe it hasn't before. I think rightly so. Churches have paused the attention on it. I also want to double tap on that and say, I think this is why it's unwise to ever delete an account or just completely get rid of, because I can't imagine churches that were like, yeah, we got 100,000 followers. Now what? Who cares? It's, for the past 5 years, it's been nothing. Let that thing collect dust. It's okay to not pay attention to something because there's always the off chance that it's going to come back. And now all of a sudden, 100,000 followers, you have the leg up in the game. And for churches that haven't started, now's the resurgence where you might be able to catch another wave.
Yeah. I think Twitter, that's exactly right. Is if there's a wave to catch, Twitter is going to be that wave now. And I think we know it's risky to catch waves because it's unknown. Is it going to crash? Is it going to crest? Is it going to, what's about to happen with this swell that's forming? And so we don't know, but I'm with you. I think if the first 90 days of 23, I'm telling every ministry that I work with, I would be focused most with new attention on Twitter, because I think that's where your best traction opportunity will be organically. And where I would shift is probably from Facebook and some of that attention that has been so prioritized on Instagram. I would shift testing into Twitter.
But don't go deleting your Facebook now. So this is the practical use case, right? Just let it collect dust. Don't kill it. Don't shut it off. Don't turn it off. Keep it. Who knows? Maybe we'll have a meta resurgence. I don't know. That's really hard to see now, but it's really hard to see Twitter being anything, a few years ago outside of the few people on there that just had an absolutely incredible network and were in like a Jay Cranda, right? Like if you want to understand how to use it, go look at Jay. Just absolutely crushing it on Twitter as an individual. And he never left, and you never left, Nils. I never left. But so don't do that with Facebook either. Just let it collect dust. That one I have a harder time seeing a path forward just because there are so many other things, but maybe, who knows? But Nils, you got another one?
Great perspective. Just let it collect dust. Yeah, my next one is going to be that TikTok is going to decline and YouTube is going to steal TikTok's attention. And so this is...
You got to elaborate on that.
On this one a little bit. But I think that basically what Instagram Reels tried to do was stealing the short form, just like they did with stories from Snapchat. I think Instagram is failing. And I say failing, they are not having the success that they had hoped with that same strategy of stealing functionality. YouTube, on the other hand, is doing the exact same thing. I think YouTube will have the success that Instagram hasn't had, because I think they are the platform that people are going to for video, and they already have such significant attention in video where people were used to looking at photos with Instagram, and they were forced into, and then they kind of got used to stories. But I just don't think that Reels has gained the traction. The other reason that I think that YouTube is going to succeed in this is YouTube has figured out how to attract creators and pay creators for their content. They've announced that in January, creators can start getting paid for shorts. Well, I think that's going to attract more masses into watching both short form and long form content in YouTube. And that's going to steal attention from TikTok, because I think they're going to basically, creators are going to flip from TikTok to YouTube. So that's my more bold prediction, because TikTok has had such success.
Yes.
And a lot of people think TikTok is going to die because the government is going to shut it down. I don't think that's the case. I mean, I think the government is going to change some policies around it. but I think TikTok doesn't want to lose American attention, or the Western, kind of attention, that America is going to likely just kind of
Yeah.
define what some of those policies are going to be from a data privacy standpoint. So I don't think it will get shut down, but I do think that concerns about privacy will be affected. But I think even more so, just YouTube creating a better, attracting more creators is going to be what's going to shift that attention. So that's where I think if YouTube was important in 22, I think it's even more important in 23. And what was important in 22 was regular videos, titles, thumbnails, all that. Now I think it's adding shorts to your content strategy. I was talking to a church yesterday, Aaron, who felt like their pastor wanted to do 3 reels a week, and shorts. Reels is what they were looking at, and I was like, yeah, you can do that for TikTok, all that. And they're like, that's just too much. And I'm like, no, I think it's too little. I think you should be doing at least 5 a week. And that's tough.
Yes,
So
that
you
is
need
tough.
to edit, because you're capturing in horizontal, and then you got to cut it for vertical, or you got to create unique content for that short form vertical video. But yeah,
I
I
think
think
five is conservative, right? Like I won't, not to scare anybody. So I'm going to give you a chance to plug your ears or take your AirPod out if you need to do that right now in this moment. But you referenced Jonah earlier, who helps Nick Vujicic with all of his
yes,
um, TikToks. He goes out a little bit before Nick. So he does testing on his own profile, and then he basically finds all the stuff that falls flat and has Nick do it, and it works.
yes,
He was sharing an example so he made some joke about Mary having a baby named Jesus, and so does that mean Mary had a little lamb?
yeah,
Jesus being the Lamb of God, right? He said it. He said that fell flat on his TikTok. He had Nick do the same thing on his
yeah.
TikTok, and it blew up. Now Jonah, as an experiment, so I gave you a chance to pull your AirPods out. As an experiment, he is trying to post 10 a day.
A day.
10 a day.
Wow.
And so I just now, not trying to create problems here for your ministry. I don't think your ministry needs to be hear it from me first. You don't need to do 10 a day. However, I do think you need, whatever the number is, you need to be thinking more than that, to your point, Nils, not less. Your big number isn't big enough. And by the way, all the stuff we're talking about is repurposed. If every platform truly wants short form vertical video, good news. You can basically use that one thing you created for all of your posts that day, right?
Yes.
And so it's encouraging that all of the platforms are craving the same content, and that should be an encouragement, not a discouragement. Just double down, double dip, triple dip.
Yeah. So our 2 predictions are Twitter and YouTube in shorts.
Mine feels so lame. Can I just call everyone thinking right now is just like, oh yeah, Aaron basically took Nils' first one, and then Nils actually had a prediction on the second one.
No. I think it's a good prediction, because I feel like I've been blasting the horn on Twitter, but I really don't think that most people are paying attention to Twitter. So I'm glad you affirmed that. I do want to give, though.
I'm glad you said my idea is essentially what Nils is saying. Guys, if you're curious who the real genius in this relationship is, it's the guy with no hair, and he's really smart.
More experience, proven by my hairline, and I've had enough failures in social media and I've had experiments. And the truth is, like, I could be so wrong on both of these. TikTok could go to 2 billion active users this year, and crush. And YouTube Shorts could just be like, because I could totally see YouTube like, we don't need that. Like, this is what we do well, and we're going to do that, and let TikTok have that short form audience. We like having the long form, and Twitter
100%.
could go where most people think it's going to go and just die, and file bankruptcy soon because it's a mess. So it could. Both of our predictions, I think, have a good opportunity to fail, and both have a good opportunity, I think, to succeed. Aaron,
can I float one out here by myself, by my own, without Daddy Nils holding my hand? And it's hard to articulate. I think something will form I think what's missing out of everything what we've said and what's missing in social media and what churches are craving the most as well is where does our community go? Where does digital community actually happen? I think Web3 actually has the best answer out of the two, out of Web 2 and out of Web 1. And so I think that there's something that will start to form in 2023 as it pertains to a place for community that will stick for the long haul. You might not notice it in 2023, but it's going to start in 2023.
Okay, I like that. I mean, I would just call it Discord, but
you don't think Discord slowed its roll? Like I feel like either we are way early on Discord or it's not actually going to hit.
Maybe it has slowed. There's no doubt about that. I think a lot of that having to do with even just crypto has slowed and NFTs have slowed. I like that prediction.
By the way, Discord is not what I'm predicting is the Web3. I think Web3 is going to birth something because Discord is still like a Web 2 deal. I feel like I think Web3 is going to birth something that solves the pain point of where does community happen on the internet in a meaningful way that churches are trying to create. And that'll start here in 2023.
Okay, I'm gonna add a prediction too that hurts me to say because I've been saying the opposite for too long. 2023 is not going to be the year for the metaverse in churches or for VR in churches. I love virtual reality. I think Apple is supposed to release their headset in 23. That said, I saw a lot of churches jump in 21 and get really excited about having a metaverse campus. It just isn't. It's too early. It's still too early for most churches. I think it's an opportunity for some churches, but it is not. You don't need to be in the metaverse yet, and that's not where you need to be getting people to go hang out. It's too early for the metaverse. So that's just a piece of advice. I say piece of advice like that's a prediction and a recommendation of don't spend your time here and ignore some of my old conversations where it's like, it's coming soon.
Pause them. Don't ignore them. Just pause them.
Pause them. I think it's coming, but it's still like, it's just slow. And even when the Apple headset comes out, it's going to take time for people to buy it and use it and get used to it. And so it's just not here yet. And there's not enough engagement. So the other advice, though, Aaron, that I want to really encourage leaders around is to create two things here. One is create a space in your church, in your offices, or in your house that you can create from in between Sundays. And I think this is, this is a really, it might even be your stage at your church. You can just flip the camera on and record something, but have a space that you can capture content. Maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's just some quick videos, maybe it's announcement videos. But I think it's a lot of these, even TikToks that we're talking about or YouTube shorts, is a lot of just pastors, ministry leaders sitting down just with talking head content for their churches in between Sundays. So it's not just sermon clips.
Yeah. And I would say also, like, not even, it's also not just for your senior pastor, by the way. A friend of ours, your friend first, Nils, you actually introduced us when we were in California, Nick Ovalle, great friend of the podcast, incredible man, incredibly smart. When he was at Sandals and when he was giving me a tour of Sandals Church, this was back in 2019. Okay. So years ago, they had a space that was set up exactly what you're talking about. It wasn't a Joe Rogan podcast studio. It wasn't a separate room. It was literally a space in their attic. Yeah. Right. Their church's attic, where anybody on staff. So if the kids team had to come in or a kids pastor or a youth pastor or, the community pastor, think anybody who would have any sort of a message, they could come and flip on a switch. All the cameras would turn on. The lighting would be perfect. There'd be a nice little backdrop, and they could record and create content. Yeah. When Nils is talking about have a space where you can create content, it's not a Joe Rogan podcast studio. That would be awesome if you did that. Yeah. If you had the budget and you created that, I think you should have that too. And you should have a few of those rooms, by the way. But you should also have a space where any staff member, or anybody in your volunteer, whatever, does not have to know anything about lighting, audio, nothing. And they can just flip a switch and record content. And that is how you get more content recorded and not worry about, well, how do we create more reels? How do we post 10 a day? Well, you can have 10 people record a piece of content, right? Instead of one person, the one videographer that's already overworked and everything, right? Because I've worked in churches. I know this. There's never enough videographers. That's what Nils is talking about. And so I'm hoping that light bulbs and ideas are going off right now where you just have to set it up and anybody has permission to go and do it and use it.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. I mean, I think that's, if there's a piece of advice going into 23, where are you able to flip a switch and capture content quickly, easily? And I'm talking, my dad has a church of 100 people in Cleveland, Texas. My dad needs to have a space like that. And I work with churches with 50,000 people, like they need a space like that or spaces like that.
Spaces. Yeah.
But I think that it is, to your point of, it could be the pastor's office, could be there, but you've got a place where you can just quickly and capture content on a tripod with some good lighting and good audio, and have that ready to get to somebody that's going to edit and can get it up quickly. So that's 23 is going to be a good year, big opportunity. This is the beauty of social media today. Is it's not like this was like television back in the day or radio where only a few people could use these channels. Anyone, anywhere, any budget, any space, like this is an opportunity for every church of every size to go and maximize these opportunities that are right in front of us. And so the opportunities have never been greater. And so I'm fired up about this year in social media and the ride that's ahead. And we're going to keep having conversations here.
And Nils and I are going to be here with you the whole year. We're not going to go radio silent. We're going to be here with you talking about this, strategizing, figuring this out. And we can even be here in a more intimate way. Nils, you mentioned the Amplify social media team that we have. If you are like, oh yeah, we actually need that kind of help. Not everybody needs that help. We're upfront about that. Some people do, but we haven't talked about it on here, and we're doing you a disservice by not. So if you need that kind of help, you can also reach out to us that way.
Yeah. So to get show notes for this episode, to get on our email list, to get some other resources, go to our website, socialmedia.church. Everything is there, and share this podcast with a friend, leave a rating, leave a review. And we can't wait to talk to you again in 2023. Hope you have great Christmas, great New Year, and we will talk to you again in 2023. Thanks for listening.